So here's the deal. My wife thinks I've lost my mind, but I'm really just a middle-aged fat guy doing crap that I've done since I was 14 and putting it on YouTube. I don't know why I do it, I just do it. Come on! There we go. Come on, baby. Bit of a square body kick here lately. Here's another one. This here is a 1981 K10 4x4, hence the K. It's been sitting around here for, I think, 23 years, the best that we can tell. It's got not horrible rust. I see flexible tailpipe down there. It's got a lift kit of some kind on it. Tailgate never had the applique, so this must be like a Scottsdale. I'm starting to learn these trim level things better. Oh, electronic spark control. Well, that says 2005. Oh yeah, the tailgate works. Oh, the bed's got some rot. Got a little moss going on down here. Dual gas tanks. Sliding rear window. It's really not too bad. Just really filthy. 81 and 82 was the only 2 years that had the blinkers and the bumpers. Well, there's the brake booster right there. Steering column isn't too happy. AC tilt wheel, dual tanks, pulverized saddle blanket seat cover. Some doodads behind the seat. Oh, drum heads. I wonder who plays the drums. There we go, Wednesday, July 14th, 1999, St. Petersburg Times. And this dash pad, I don't know. Maybe just a little bit of armor on and we'll be in good shape here. The visors are okay. Another 305. And a missing air compressor. Seems to be a common theme with all these squares I find. No fan shroud. That's not any good. I think we got a little bit of a dirt dauber problem going on in the carburetor. I worked at the auto parts store back when these batteries were popular. I used to love these Champion 950 batteries. They were great. GMB is the manufacturer of the batteries. It was 950 total cranking amps, 850 cold cranking amps. I remember this. I used to buy these for my cars. Somewhere on here, there might be a date code. There it is. 2 of 9. So that's either February of 1999 or February of 1989. So we're going to go with February 1999. So we're going to say the battery was in here 24 years ago, exactly. So let's get down to brass tacks here, guys. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if this engine will turn over with a ratchet first. I'm not going to go crazy oiling the cylinders right away. Sometimes these engines spin over really easy and sometimes they don't. This one I'm not even going to bother with the block mounted fuel pump. I've got my electric fuel pump and a battery, and I got the most important tool that they make for this with me today. My magnetic HVAC umbrella. I can just get it to stick up here somehow. How about this? Umbrellas and wind don't like each other. Well, these things are always marketed so good. Oh, there's a body line in the middle and it won't stick to the body line. There. That does absolutely nothing, but it looks cool. It turns 2 turns and it stops. I like my brain. Well, let me tell you something. My wife's going to give me the stink eye when she sees this out in the yard. That fan blade gets right in your way when you're trying to turn these things over, you know. Well, I just had you on there a few minutes ago. Holy crap, Ollie. Making spark plugs out. This engine seems to be seized up pretty solid. So I'm gonna go in from the wheel wells on the sides over here because there's no front tires to get to the spark plugs. Okay, so big boy had to get better access down on the side here and tear all this plastic crap out of here. Brand new Bosch spark plugs. I don't know why. It looks like they've never even been fired. So there's all 4 of them from the driver's side. And then I wasted an entire can of PB Blaster in the 4 holes. And we'll let that percolate in there a little bit. Go take the plugs out on the other side. I'm not going to bother doing anything else until I get this thing to hopefully spin over, but it's not looking too promising so far. Another trip for tools, and I let the oil percolate a little bit. Had to go get a different socket. And I found this aluminum pipe to put on the breaker bar. So I'm going to try to break this thing free. And that doesn't work. Might just throw a battery in here and see if the starter will do it. Sometimes the starter will do it before you can do it by hand, ironically. I think after doing this a few times, I'm going to become a lifetime member of Weight Watchers or something. Just get the old aluminum pipe on here. Well, it moved a little bit. I don't want to, there it goes. Move, 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 there you go. I don't want to snap that bolt off in the crank. That sucks when you do that. I did get a little bit of movement out of it. And there went something else that I dropped, which means I got to bend over again. And there went something else that I dropped. Counterclockwise. There it goes. There we go. So what I like to do with these is go back and forth a little bit, a couple times. We got a ridge right there, so we'll take our pole, our pipe, work past that. There it goes. The grinding means it's moving. Grunting means that head latch is poking me right in the belly hole. There we go. Definitely got some ridges here. Go, go, go. There you go. There we go. I want to try to get an estimated 360-degree turn out of this thing. So now I'll go back counterclockwise. Try to work past that. It hits one spot and it just stops. The last time I did this, it was on a Oldsmobile 260 V8. Now here I am doing it on a 305. I wonder if my wife thinks I've lost my mind. There's one ridge. Right there it hits. Don't break off. Bolt. Oh. See if I can't give it a head start and yank it really hard. There it went. I think I cleared the ridge that time. Either that or I fractured a rib. Oh yeah, we're good now. Battery time. I feel like I need to write a strongly worded letter to the manufacturer of this umbrella. Oh my God, that battery weighs 1,000,000 pounds. See if I got some emery cloth. Well, I don't have emery cloth, but I think I can clean this battery terminal up a little bit with this old Sawzall blade. Got no juice. So I wonder what's up with that. Note to self when you're doing a revival, don't just assume there is a starter in place. So now I'm gonna have to go get a couple of wheels, put it on the front of this, yank it out of the mud hole. The 3 worst things about working on a car, even when you're not out in the middle of somebody's field somewhere, is changing tires, jacking stuff up in the dirt, and putting starters on. So I'm about to do all 3 of those. I've got 2 4x4 posts down in that gopher hole or whatever. I had to go get a bottle jack to jack it up enough to move the floor jack underneath the axle to get the hub up high enough to get the old tire out to get my Toyota 6 lugs on. Now I hope they fit. This is I believe these are off a Toyota. I found them in a trash pile on the side of the road. And I thought, you know, I think Toyotas and Isuzus and Nissans from the 90s, 80s, and 90s had the same 6 lug pattern as the Chevys did. Chevy 4x4s have 6 lugs and 2-wheel drives have 5 lugs. Well, the pattern is the same. The problem is if you mount this wheel the right way, it will interfere with that drag link or steering stabilizer bar, whatever that thing is across the front. I think it's a drag link. So what I did is I thought, well, I'll outsmart this whole bunch of people here and flip the wheel around, because all I got to do is just roll it up out of this mud hole. Well, I did that and it hits the caliper. So I think I'll go ahead and try to take these brake calipers off and just mount these wheels backwards. And I might just leave it that way until I either sell this truck or junk it or whatever happens. There's no front drive shaft, but you know, this perspective down here isn't really all that bad on this truck. I know the guys up north would probably love to see this. And there's my umbrella, and it's already coming apart on the other side again. And there's a buzzard swirling. Well, that's not a good sign. After, I don't know, who knows how many days, hours, and minutes, I got the brake caliper tied up there so I can see if this rim will fit on there backwards, so I can tow this rig somewhere over there. And I'm already exhausted.
Ah, Jason.
Say que te vaya bien, soy de Chivas. Got the successful wheel on there, and I think I'm gonna start a trend with that. Got a little problem on the other side that I'm gonna have to address. Somebody has gone and put 2 wheel locks on this wheel, and there's no key. So what I did is I went to the store and bought one of these emergency I want new rims tools. Oops. Now's about the time this thing will fall off both the jacks and crush my package. Day 4. Here's where we're at. The wheel lock removal tools that I bought didn't work. So I went home in a fit of rage and found my original, I think this is a Lyle. I think Lyle made these. I'm not sure they do anymore. It's a tapered, hardened wheel lock remover for emergencies only, guys, that you just kind of hammer on there. I've got this impact extension. You whale it on there with a big hammer until it really won't move anymore, and then start hitting on it with your impact gun. And this one actually fits over the head of the stupid nut. So hopefully I'll have some serious progress finally. Voila. The only problem is getting them out ain't much fun. All right, so one of these other kits that I bought had a knockout pin, so I set the socket on top of one of my old cheap sockets and drove it through this way into the old cheap socket. Now I get to do the whole thing all over again. Okay, I figured out the first couple of times you hit it with this tool, it's not going to take it off, but it does create a lot of heat. So you give it a couple minutes of spinning on there, heat the thing up real good, and then you can drive it on even further with your hammer, and they come right off like butter. And there it is on the ground. There's my socket. Oh, and the drive pin fell down in the tailgate. Definitely don't follow me for organizational tips, that's for sure. Okay, we are in like Flynn with the wheel, and man, this thing looks really much better, not sinking in the mud anymore. So I'm gonna go home and grab my trusty excursion and a chain and pull this thing out of its grave, because I think a couple of the wheels are locked up. And I haven't used the excursion in a while. I had a online prime delivery for a starter on this thing lined up, and it got canceled for some unknown reason. It just said your shipment is no longer deliverable. I just noticed that the transmission linkage may not be hooked up. Goodness, this just keeps getting better by the second here. I'm gonna try to get this starter installed. Battery cable is here. This is a lug that supplies power to the main fuse block. This looks like the solenoid trigger wire. Should be purple. These remanufactured starters come with these shims that go on top here. And the reason they do that is because when they machine the cones down, they lose some material. And usually what I do is I just go ahead and install these, because they're a lot easier to pull one out than it is to put one in, typically. Because you can just take this bolt here out and then loosen the other bolt and just slide the shim out, and then leave one in there, or take them both out, or whatever you need to do. But I think the proper adjustment is to have your Bendix about 1/8 of an inch away from the flywheel. Now, I'm not going to get that scientific. And also, when I got my starter bolts, I ordered the cheapest ones online I could get. They sent me these ARP. I don't know if these are stainless steel or chrome or what, but they're nice. And then my Napa store had one regular old starter bolt, so I just bought an extra one, because you never really know what you're going to need. Starter bolts are knurled right here for a reason, and that keeps them from backing out and coming loose. That kind of grabs into the block and acts like a locking mechanism. If you get just regular smooth bolts, they have a tendency to fall out. Attention, please call our ASE certified technicians at this phone number for assistance. Well, like I've said before, nobody does that. You just take the darn thing back to the store and get another one. Probably ought to do this with a light on. I can't see to hook up the electrical gizmos. So I came over here last night, got a late start, started working on this thing, and it was all going well until some kind of creature of the night right at dusk kind of eased his way into my pants leg and went up my shorts and started gnawing on my inner thigh as I was struggling to hold the starter in place and hold the shims and all that. That creature was on a mission to change my pronouns. So I came flying out from underneath this thing like a melted marshmallow fighting its way out of a s'more, and went home and got a good night's sleep. Bought some more items again. Now I'm getting ready to get this thing fired up. I'm getting worn out with coming over here, you know what I mean? Okay, I finally got the starter in as good as I can. The problem with those shims is there's no way to get the other end manipulated around that heat riser in the front of the transmission, whatever, bell housing area. So what I did is I just compromised and left them like that. So they're shimmed on this side. I got a bunch of washers holding it up. It's good and tight now. Seems like it's the right starter. Doesn't quite get up in there as tight as I'd like to see it, but this is only to test start this truck. And I got the transmission linkage figured out. I know there's supposed to be a spring duber in there and a washer and a different kind of pin, but that's the only one that I had with me. It'll work for now. I also just noticed there's a vacuum modulator right there. So that and the shape of this pan, this is definitely like a turbo 350 transmission. And those wires on the solenoid are not as easy as they look, believe me. I mean, look at this mess. Just look at it. Amongst all the other fun, I realized I have my shirt on inside out. And then as I was crawling out from under the truck, I've got 2 different color socks on. Tight, tight. I don't smell nothing again this time. See if anything works now. We've got one little key buzzer, and that's it. Well, I got some headlight action going on just by messing with the wiring harnesses under the hood. You always got to have a $200 HVAC tester to work on a old square body. That's what I like to do. Actually, I think this wiring harness is probably bad. Gonna have to bring some more wires and stuff and just go around all that crap, and we'll make this engine run without the ignition switch on the column. Hooked up a red clamp on the S pole on the solenoid, so if I touch the other end of that bare wire to positive, it should turn this starter over. All right, away we go. All right. It turns over a lot better than I expected it to. Of course, that PB blaster has been soaking in there for days now. Probably the ignition switch on that column is bad, or that wiring harness junction up there is bad. I think that's kind of a common problem. Started up a lot like I did that old 76. It's in my playlist if you want to see it. The 76 C30 that sat under a tree for 27 years. Okay, the best thing that's happened today is that starter that I had to chase down and battle to put in works. So what I've done before I leave for today is I went and soaked everything down that I could think of with PB blaster, all the carb linkage. Not going to be able to keep those dirt dauber nests from going down in the carburetor even if I take the thing off. So I got a little vacuum that I'm going to use to suck that off, kind of break it up and suck it so it keeps a minimum out of the intake. I'll knock that dirt dauber nest off. I'm going to find the 12-volt wire to the coil on top of that cap and take it straight to the battery along with the starter. I'll do that through an air conditioning contactor. Halfway clean this carburetor, get some fire out of it. Then after that, I'm going to decide its fate. It's really not a bad truck so far. I don't know the condition of the engine for real yet. I have a feeling it's probably not going to be all that great, but it's a 4x4 square body, perfect for an LS swap. It's unfortunate that it had to sit as long as it did, but hey, you know, life happens sometimes. So, and maybe if we're lucky, we can get it to move under its own power, not stop, but at least move. Okay, I'm getting set up for my wiring override here with my AC contactor. This is the last day I'm going to work on this thing before I give up and tow it home. So I got a hot wire running from the battery to here to supply my contactor. I'm going to do a continuity test on this harness to make sure I've got purple and the pink on the coil indicated correctly. Trying to keep these dirt dauber nests out of this carburetor the best that I can, and hope there's no mom and dads coming back around this thing. Get off of there. Uh-oh. Yep, I think there was some live larvae in there. Those looked like fruit flies or something. Crazy. I usually get lost in Florida. Between 11:30 and 3:30 or so, I just disappear for a while. I'm just getting too old to work in direct sunlight. It's way too hot down here. We don't have spring anymore. On every square body truck I've ever seen, there's a purple wire coming out of this bulkhead right here. That goes to your starter trigger. And then this pink right above it. Sometimes it's on the other side. I don't know why this one, I don't know. It depends on what schematic you look at. What I did is I bypassed those to go around all the ignition switch stupidity inside the truck. And these red wires, so these two reds right here, those connect to the starter down below on the positive battery cable. They supply power to the bulkhead connector here, goes through all the switches and things inside and comes out through these wiring harnesses. These bottom left are all kinds of engine sensors, oil pressure, temp. So what I did is isolated the starter and the ignition to the HEI coil and wired them into wire nuts there, twist nuts they call them. Then I wired that to an air conditioning contactor, and you can share power on one end of this thing down here. That's where my fuel pump lead will go, which I already got set up for the electric pump. And power in here, power out right here through this side, through this plunger. This is going to be my starter switch now. And it goes and connects to the purple with a twist nut. And that should fire the starter. And I have another generic headlight switch that comes from the battery. So this generic headlight switch will turn on fuel pump and the coil. So I'll pull this on, have power going out to the fuel pump. The other lead I made up, which I have disconnected right here to the HEI. Then I can start it. Now, two reasons I do that. One, I think the steering column switch is really screwed up. It might not even be there. This truck's had some stuff robbed off of it. And the other reason is when I go to start it, I can operate it out here while I mess with the carburetor, because I'm sure it's gonna have to be messed with. So I'll have all my controls out here and I can do it all by myself. It's not the neatest job in the world, but you know, I'm not gonna restore this truck. It's just gonna, I don't even know if this thing's gonna run still. Now when I hit this button, I should have some starter. Contact. All right, I think it's safe to assume, because it works the way I did it out here, there must be a problem inside the truck with that switch and wiring and all that. So now I'm going to put the plugs back in it and connect up our HEI, put some fuel, gas, oil mix down the carburetor, and it should fire. That's the easiest way to test for spark right out of the gate, is just to do it that way. If it doesn't fire or boom or explode, then I'll start diagnosing spark issues. But it's an HEI, man, it's gonna run, you know? Oh, by the way, I guess I should test my switch. I didn't even think about that. Yep. I guess I haven't lost it. Okay, got the spark plugs all in. Let's see how the starter sounds now. A little bit of gallop, it's starting to pick up. Not too bad. Okay, I put a piece of tape over that vacuum booster, vacuum hose, doober thingy there. And that tape, I call it mastic tape, but it's this really super sticky HVAC tape for ductwork. I'm gonna pour this 40-to-1 oil mix down the pie hole and see if it'll fire on that. I think the oil mix with gas is a better choice because of all the dirt that I let get down the carburetor. We'll just pour it in and all around the carburetor. If it doesn't fire, I might have to go to video number 2. Power back on. Here we go. Seems like the battery's dead. I got my RAM hooked up to it. recharge this battery up some. And I turned the key on in the square body in case there's some chance the electric choke might work. So far we got nothing. If it doesn't fire here in a minute, I'll have to do a spark check. Okay, so I went ahead and disconnected with a tubing cutter. Took a tubing cutter and cut this fuel line here, and took a spark plug that's actually for my Dodge, what do you call it, a D150, D100 at my house to check for sparks. Let's turn the power on over here. The main switch. Oh, this tripod's junk. Main switch on, ignition hooked up, contact. No spark. Well, I'm gonna have to go and grab a couple more parts as usual, and I need to get a bigger ladder so I can get to the back to the distributor cap and check out what's going on with this no spark situation. But I'm gonna have to lay on top of this engine, and I gotta have some cushioning up there. I can't, this thing's just too tall. I mean, I typically hate lift kits, and you know, putting a starter on's not so bad, but doing crap like this really sucks. I'm setting up ladder number 2. I got 2 platforms here, and amazing how quickly that happens. Now maybe I can get up to where I need to be. I need to be at the bar, I think. This is a box for a toilet, or as my family in Georgia would say, a commode. You know, somebody would call and ask for Jason, and one of my family members would say, I think he's on the commode, he'll have to call you back. I'm gonna try to lay that down in there and smash the radiator hose. Now I think my girth will crush that box down and turn it into an accordion cushion. At least that's the plan. And this is another $90 trip to the parts store with some assorted ignition parts. Hopefully that won't fall down there. Let's see how my plan works. I also have a back support belt laying over this hood latch so I don't inadvertently castrate myself. Now we're talking. Get down there. There we go. Okay. Maybe I can work my way up here on the bumper. First thing I'm going to do, make sure I have this thing plugged in right. I'll just put my sunglasses in the master cylinder. Oh, this has that fancy schmancy electronic spark control crap off of there. My goodness. Well, I think I see the problem in here. Come on. What is the deal here? Oh my God. Does this thing not have a Phillips? You gotta be kidding me. There it is. Alright, I think I'll figure out how to get off here and hurt myself. Let's see if we got any distributor spin. Might be a wise first step. Okay. We got distributor spin. We got a new ignition module cap rotor. See a little fiery spot right there. And somewhere around here, unless I dropped it, I've got a ignition module that's all boogered up. So I'm gonna try this one more time tonight. And then I might do one final drive tomorrow try to get this thing to run. And if I can't, I'm going to pull the plug on it and take it home where I can explore the possibilities even further. Here goes a little bit more True Fool. Guess I should have checked my spark plug that's just laying errant down on the valve cover so I don't start a fire. Some kind of monstrous creature in the palm trees behind me. Probably the one that tried to crawl up my shorts last night. Ignition power. We have a dead battery situation. So I think I'm gonna call it a night, but I think it sounds promising at this point. Oh, we're gonna charge the battery. Okay guys, I had to get off the lady's property when it gets dark, so I had to pull the plug a little premature on this K10 for this video. I'm going to call this one part 1. I think, I still don't have spark, so I think what I might do is just get one of those cheap eBay distributors or whatever and try to pop that in. Or I may go down there and fart around with it just for a little bit longer in the morning. And if I don't get it started and finish what I'm trying to finish soon, I'm just going to have to, you know, hook some chains to it and drag it to my house and work on it when I get time. But this thing has been a total ball buster. I mean, sometimes they're like that, but I've been trying to show as many things as I can and also maintain my sanity. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you absolutely pound that notification bell and subscribe to my channel. That truck will run. I promise you it will run. May not run good, but it's gonna run. And I really appreciate you guys watching.
See you next time.
All right.
Tune in again.
Thanks for watching.
Yep.